Hey everybody, sorry for the delay. I now have to kick my son out of my office space on Wednesday nights. So welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that you have that are fairly common questions. And, really it's all about educating you in the correct ways. Not gonna lie, I'm really frustrated recently. I've been taking another nutrition course. I'm back in school. I'm going for my master's and I'm taking Nutrition 101. Not like I've taken enough of these. And my biggest frustration is that a lot of the information that's in this textbook is and it's just inaccurate. They really have come back to, if you look at the myplate.gov, and of course, even worse was the food pyramid. There's really evidence again and research against some of the information that they're still preaching. I think the biggest frustration is that the results that we're seeing in the United States is because of this information that we're still trying to educate people with, where it just doesn't make any sense. They really have the opposite research that, saturated fats and red meat are not causing heart disease. It's sugar and processed food, guys. So really it's, trying to get the correct information. That's what this is about, is I'm trying to educate everybody. Sometimes it just isn't appropriate to listen to what the popular thing is, because it doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. And that's where kind of politics and all that garbage tends to play a role. So today we're actually talking about a great question. I get this all the time. Mostly I get it from random people that get to my Facebook page, and then I get a message from them and they're going, okay, I'm eating really healthy. Why am I not seeing the changes that I'm supposed to see? And then I have to go back and do a little research myself and ask them a lot of questions, because usually it comes down to one of a couple of things. And usually my first question right out of the box is, what's your nutrition like? But there's a lot that can play a role there. So we're going to talk about that today. If you really feel like you're eating a healthy diet, which, I don't like that word, but if your general food plan is fairly healthy, or if you feel it's fairly healthy, there might be some other things we need to look at, but I do want to approach the idea that your regular diet is a healthy option, because what I find is that most people think they're eating really healthy, and when it comes down to it, when we start tracking, we start talking about what's in those foods, we find out that it's really not necessarily their best options. And of course, the older we get, the bigger a difference that can make. These days, if I eat any sort of processed food or sugar, my body lets me know what it thinks about that. So while, if 80% of your food is healthy and that 15% is not so great, maybe you'd be able to make some significant change over time. But you also have to be realistic about the expectations of when you're going to see those changes as well, especially if you're not tracking. And that's a big part of it. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about why you might not be seeing change when you feel that you're eating really, really healthy. And the first reason I'm going to tell you is you really need to delve into it and decide. We probably need to chat, right? Because you really might not be eating as healthy as you think you are. Way back when I first started, and I was still at like 210 pounds, even 190, I thought I was eating fairly healthy, but that's back when I thought granola bars were healthy, and good Lord, those are like the least healthy things you could be possibly eating. So it really comes down to making sure that you are eating healthy foods. Now, be careful what you're paying attention to. Just because the box says healthy, low, it has no cholesterol, it's heart healthy, that doesn't mean a gosh darn thing. You really start having to pay attention to things like the ingredient list. You guys, if it has more than a couple of ingredients, it's a processed food. Now, it might be lightly processed, such as egg whites. Egg whites are pasteurized, so that's, pasteurization kills off some of the benefits of the vitamins and the minerals, but it's not the worst thing that you could possibly deal with. But when you're coming upon something that has a bunch of additives and preservatives, now you're talking about, I don't care what that product says it is. Even protein ice cream. Sorry guys, protein ice cream is still a processed food. So are protein bars. And some of those protein bars contain so much sugar, and if you start paying attention to some of those ingredients, man, we're talking about the worst things possible for you. If you ever look at your box, first of all, it's boxed. It's probably not healthy. If it is shelf stable, it is probably not a clean, healthy option. So that alone should tell you a lot. But if you're looking at it and it contains any of the sort of vegetable oil, whether it's safflower, corn, canola, any of those. Now, olive oil is a different ballgame. The less refined it is, the better off it is. But that's a different type of option. So Unfortunately, vegetable oils are a polyunsaturated fat, which just means they're very unstable and they actually oxidize in your system and they create some major problems. Same thing with anything that has any sort of sugar in there. And most of us also need to be aware that sugar substitutes aren't always the best option either, because sometimes they really mess with our gut flora, which is our immune system and our body's ability to not create allergens and things to food. So again, you kind of gotta educate yourself a little bit. And I think that's the biggest part of the problem is we've been taught so many things that are incorrect that we're not even sure what's healthy anymore. So, you know, if you're even unsure, ask, right? Because I'll tell you, I'll tell you what I think. I have no problem giving you my opinion. But you know, sometimes it just comes down to having some common sense about it, that, you know, if it's a boxed item, if it's shelf stable, if it's highly processed, it's not a health food. I don't even care what the package says. You know, the FDA lets a lot of companies get away with things, and the USDA, unfortunately now, those are the government, you know, programs that oversee these. It's all down to the wording, and so sometimes they can get away with things that we think sound healthy, like natural flavors. That has nothing to do with natural. So you have to educate yourself, make sure that you understand what's in it, what that means, and what they get away with, what the loopholes are, so that you know what you're eating. Plus, you may be underestimating how much you're really eating of that. So unless you're tracking, what are your best options? To keep it simple, I know that sometimes it seems like it's so much information and I don't want to have to track all this. But, you know, just wear a Fitbit. Pay attention, track your stuff in MyFitnessPal, and kind of see what your energy in, energy out is. Now, there's other things you should be paying attention to, but that at least gives you an idea of, am I eating more calories than I'm burning? Because, of course, then that's why even the healthy foods, if you're eating more than you're burning, you're not going to lose weight. I mean, it just can't happen. Now, again, your body treats the different macros differently, so there's a lot more to that, but that's a good place to start. I love MyFitnessPal, but the one thing I do have to tell you is that it goes off of one simple algorithm. So for most people, it's gonna tell you to eat way too many carbs. You can change those manually through the goals, but you kind of got to know what your macros and what your calories should be before you do that. And you can do that with the free version, so don't think you have to pay for the premium one. A lot of times when people start telling me what they eat, they are eating way too many carbs. And even if they're healthy carbs, they're still carbs. If you give your body all the energy that it needs in carbohydrates, why would your body burn fat as fuel? So even with fruit, if you're eating 6 or 7 servings of fruit, because we used to be told, fruits and vegetables, it used to be one compartment, right, in the food pyramid. Well, what do you think people are going to eat? They're going to eat the fruit because it's sweet and it tastes good versus the vegetables. So the problem becomes, if you're eating too many fruits, you're still, even though they're natural sugars, you're still giving your body sugars. You're still spiking your insulin, which tells your body, I need to store something. So again, I usually limit people. I usually tell them 2 servings a day in fruits. Everything else should be vegetables. And that's where the majority of your carbs should come from in the first place. If you're eating a lot of grains, now I know we're told whole grains are great. To an extent, the problem with whole grains these days is they're not what they used to be. When we do grains, they need to be more sprouted because our body utilizes them a lot differently, versus most of the grains we eat these days are very refined and they instantly turn to sugar in your system. And again, now you're back to having some unhealthy options. Quality food versus processed food. Again, if you're, tracking your macros and you're doing great, but you're not seeing results, are they quality? Are you, for carbs, are you eating Pop-Tarts or are you eating apples? There's a huge difference there. The more processed it is, the more readily your body absorbs it, right? Big difference between eating broccoli and eating, I don't even know. Broccoli is a great option, but your body takes so much longer to break it down. Same thing with cooked versus raw. Your body, when it's cooked, it's broken down a little bit, so your body more readily absorbs it. Now, I know there's some certain situations where people have a hard time absorbing. Anybody with any sort of digestive inflammation is going to struggle to absorb the nutrients, and so that might be a better option for them. But just keep in mind that it really depends on how processed it is, how cooked it is. There's a lot of things that can make a difference there. And we talked about beware of packaging. You guys, they want to sell you something. Don't believe for a minute that, think about it, okay? Here's my favorite. When Oreo Thins first came out, I was like, oh, cool. But what I'm hearing is, okay, well, it's a healthier version. No, it's not. It's just a thinner version. The problem comes that most people are eating more than double what they would if they were eating the regular one. So how does that make it a healthier option? It doesn't. So, use some common sense there. Number 2, you got to pay attention to what your macros look like. Your formula is going to change depending on what your goals are. If you're trying to, let's say, grow muscle, you're probably going to eat more carbs than you are fats and proteins. But if you're trying to reduce your weight, lean out a little bit, you're going to reduce your carbs. You're going to have more proteins and fats. Like I said, there's so much misinformation out there. I get a lot of people coming to me and going, well, isn't that too much protein? I'm like, says who? Well, doesn't it hurt your kidneys? No, the only problem is if you already have kidney issues, that might be a problem. But for those of us that don't have any kidney issues, what's wrong with extra protein? Especially if you're trying to build muscle and you're lifting really heavy, you need a good portion of protein in order to make sure that you have enough protein for protein synthesis. So again, it changes. So, just going off of somebody else's meal plan or diet doesn't always work, because if your goals aren't the same, or if your body types aren't the same, your genetic history isn't the same, there's no reason why you should be doing exactly what somebody else does. Really, the biggest tip I can possibly give you is clean it up. If you're eating a bunch of junk and processed food and a lot of soda, even diet soda, guys, not good for you. Clean that up and you should start to, if you don't see results immediately, you're going to feel the results immediately. And that's a big deal, right? I don't know about you, but I want to feel good. Number 3, we talked about too many healthy calories. So here's the issue I come down to is, I really love my almond butter, but if I don't measure it, I tend to get double what I really need. And because fats are more calorie dense than proteins and carbs, it's really easy to overdo it pretty quickly. So it's important that I measure my almond butter or my almonds, or I'm just going to eat too many of them. So again, we're kind of coming back to the calories in, calories out, energy in, energy out. Again, I'm not a huge fan of talking like that because there's so many more variables that participate into that. But yeah, like even with the healthy foods, if you're eating if you're eating way too many sweet potatoes, or if you're eating way too many grams of steak, that can also be a problem. So you got to have the right balance. You got to have the right balance for you, and that's important. Number 4, back to the calories. Or you might not be eating enough. That can be a huge issue as well. A lot of people when they come to see me, they are eating they're doing the whole 1,200 calorie diet garbage. And that's a problem, because if you're burning 2,600 calories a day and you're only eating 1,200, your body actually thinks you're in starvation mode. Your body does not know the difference between diet and starvation. And it goes, okay, well, if she's not going to eat, I better hold on to everything I've got. So your metabolism drops, you get sluggish, fatigued, or you're just running like a crazy person and you're wondering why your body doesn't change. Well, because it's on starvation mode. So make sure that you're getting enough calories, not too many calories. I know it's a lot to think about, but again, if you're using a Fitbit and you're really paying attention to your macros, and if you're not sure how that all works out, seek professional help, because honestly, it's not as difficult as you think it is. And sometimes just having a little bit of guidance to get you in the right direction makes a whole lot of difference. It's taken me 10 plus years to educate myself on how this works. Plenty of classes, plenty of reading, and not just the textbook reading. I do a lot of reading, research reading, listen to doctors, watch a lot of lectures. So I'm passionate about it. I find it fascinating. So okay, number 4, sleep trumps everything. So you can be eating perfectly, and if you are not getting the right amount of sleep, or if you have way too much stress on your plate, you are really going to struggle to get where you want to go. Sleep being that, because your body has to reset and recover at night, if you're not giving your body that option, it freaks out, to be honest. It really has to find the energy from somewhere. So, it's not able to complete those processes. It's not able to reset itself. There's certain things that happen in your body that at night when you sleep and you hit that deep sleep that your body needs to deal with. And then to be optimum, we're not even talking just normal. Your body can't even be normal if you're not hitting enough sleep. So if you're only getting 5.5, 6 hours of sleep, you're really doing your body a disservice, because you're not giving it the rest and the energy that it needs to recover and move forward. So that could be, I've had more than once have I gone back and found out that the reason why my client's struggling is because, they're getting to bed at crazy hours and they're getting up in the morning to go to the gym at 4 a.m. I'm like, okay, well, if you aren't getting at least 6 hours of sleep, you don't get to go to the gym, because you're not giving your body the energy it needs to get to the gym. The other problem is too, I love everybody, and I know that there are certain jobs that require that people be awake in the middle of the night, right? There's shift work, our emergency services. I get it. I mean, those are important and we need them. The problem is that it plays with our circadian rhythm, which is our body's necessity to sleep when it's dark and to be awake when it's light. And if we get too off track and our body is upside down and doesn't know what's going on, it's so confused that will play into other roles of our life, like being able to be healthy and feel good and lose weight. So I'm not 100% sure how to tell you to fix that, because that is a difficult one. Sometimes people have a rotating schedule and maybe that helps, but that's going to be a rough one if you're really struggling to see results and you don't have a choice and you have to work at night. So keep that in mind, that you're kind of fighting a little bit of battle there, that you might need to find some other ways to help you with that. Number 5, water intake. Here's another one. Hi, Sean. He says I'm talking about him again. I know, dude. I know that you work out all night. Water intake is an important one too. I find a lot of times people are like, well, I'm just not seeing anything. And I'm looking at their pictures, because most of my clients check in with me once a week, and then I side-by-side pictures every week to see maybe they are seeing results. They're just not seeing it on the scale, because it happens all the time. And I can tell that they're holding a little bit of water. And so my first question is, how much water are you getting? Well, I'm really struggling with that one. Well, then that's why you're not seeing results. If you're not able to flush your system on a regular basis, you're going to have a problem with that. Intake of water is important. You're going to see changes in your skin, your bowel movements, guys. If you haven't pooped in a week, you have a problem. You should be pooping twice a day. And if you're not getting enough water, your body doesn't have enough hydration to hydrate that to get it out of your system. I know that's disgusting. Get over it. So you got to make sure that you're drinking enough water. Now, that being said, it really is about the electrolyte balance. So don't be thinking, okay, well, I've cut out sodium, you got to have some sodium, guys. The problem is the American diet has way too much sodium, and now you're eating it alongside a bunch of crap. So, sodium is necessary. So is magnesium, potassium. There's other things that make up your electrolyte balance, and if you're not getting enough of that, things can get really off and you can get dehydrated extremely easy, and that might be fighting your body's ability to do what it's supposed to do. Okay, number 6, how active are you really? If you have a job where you're sitting at a desk all day and you might be exhausted, I get it, I'm back in school, I'm doing homework. You might think that you're busy because you're doing stuff all day, but you're sedentary. That can also play a role into the fact that you're not seeing results. So, if you're eating like super low calorie, but you sit on your bottom all day, you might just need to get up and move around a little bit more. I'm really not a huge fan of really cutting back on nutrients and food. I prefer that you eat enough to, have the energy that you need for your body, and then move more. Get out and take a walk. It doesn't even have to be in one fell swoop. You don't have to have an hour a day to get some exercise. Take a 15-minute break on your lunch break and go for a walk, then eat, then get back to work. There's things that you can do that you can work it into your schedule, even though it's already busy. I get it. I run 2 businesses and go back to school. I'm a grandma. You can't tell me you can't do it. I do it anyway. So keep that in mind, that if you're not active enough, even if you're eating super healthy, again, you got that energy balance you got to think about. And again, back to the quality, you got to make sure that it's quality. It can't just be the amounts, right? The other one that I find really interesting, sometimes you got to do a double check and decide, are you eating too many cheat meals? Wow, I've done really great all week. I'm going to have a cheat meal this weekend. If you're having a weekly cheat meal and that cheat meal is a little out of control, you're probably undoing everything you do all week in one meal. Now, if it's been a couple of weeks and you've done really good, and maybe you're even feeling a little fatigued and like maybe you're not getting enough, then a cheat meal is probably okay. Now, there is a big difference between a cheat meal and a free meal. Free meal is, you want pizza with the kids? Have a couple pieces of pizza, a salad, and you're good. A cheat meal is a free-for-all. And the downside to that is that a lot of times we're taking in so much garbage that it takes our body several days to not only deal with it, but then get through it and get our metabolism back to the way it's supposed to be. So, just because you've done 5 or 6 days of really, really good staying on track, that doesn't give you a day to eat whatever the hell you want, because you're probably going to stall your progress right there. So keep that in mind. And then on top of that, the other thing is there's some other variables that might be playing a role. If you've really hit all of the things we've just talked about and you're still not seeing results, there's a few things that might be hampering you. Number one, have you had your hormones checked lately? That stress level that we just talked about, if you are consistently producing cortisol in your body and there's high inflammation all the time, you're not going to have the results that you want because your body's trying to deal with all those other things. Your body's really interested in what we call homeostasis, which is just balance, right? So if things are not quite right, whether it's your hormones, whether it's your stress level, whether it's not enough sleep, your body's going to try to find other ways to deal with that. It's not even going to attempt to do what you think it should be doing, which is lose weight and get lean. It's going to be trying to just deal with what you're doing. Same thing if you're eating a lot of toxic, crappy food, your body's dealing with that. Same thing if you tend to drink a lot of alcohol. I know people think, well, can't I just have a glass of wine every night? Well, you probably can, but unfortunately your body has to deal with that. Your metabolism has to deal with the alcohol, no matter how little or how much, first, before it does anything else. You cannot drink alcohol and burn fat at the same time. It doesn't work because, again, the way that alcohol works, your body has to deal with it first because technically it's toxic. So your liver has to deal with it immediately, suspending all other things that you're trying to accomplish with that. So if you're drinking every night, probably not seeing the results that you want to have. Save it for special occasions. Personally, I'd rather eat my calories than drink them. So hopefully that helps. If you guys have any other ideas, if you have any other questions, I get my very best ideas from you guys. So just trying to educate you on how the science really works, because there's not a lot of information, there's not a lot of education out there that's readily available, and our government's not telling us the right stuff. So please ask, or you can leave a comment below. You can also message me directly at Facebook Messenger. I do respond, just don't be creepy, because I love to answer the questions. Sometimes it's a little more information than I can give you right there. Please don't ask me to write you a meal plan for free. I get that all the time as well. I can help you with macros, but some of those things take me a lot longer, and that's how I make my living. So have an incredible 4th of July, you guys. I'm so excited. Happy birthday, America. Have a great one. Please be safe. Please, if you're going to drink, don't drive. Behave yourself. And we'll see you. And there will be Meals with Melissa this Sunday, I promise. So have a great one, you guys. That's Q&A Wednesday. Have a great one. Bye now.